received special training via a secret organization working under the direct control of the president. I was to assume the responsibility of protecting the new president's family.
Cornel, why am I the one who always gets the short end of the stick?
Yo, who are you really? Come on and tell us.
It's funny how Capcom's Resident Evil 4 has aged over the years since its initial release in 2005. Back then were the blissful days of games telling stories of worlds we could only dream of. What makes it so funny, however, is the fact that Resident Evil 4's story hasn't aged well at all. Back in the day, most gamers would consider the story so groundbreaking that it felt like Shakespearean poetry. But now, I'm looking for the president's daughter as Leon tells a couple of sketchy drivers on the way to a small town. It just doesn't maintain that sense of realism any longer. I mean, who goes around touting about his secret mission? But besides the hilarious one-liners we've all come to familiarize with the Resident Evil franchise, the game, still to this day, doesn't miss a beat gameplay-wise. For those unfamiliar with the story, or the legacy in which this game is considered to be the best of the series by many, you play in a third-person perspective as Leon Kennedy, a former Raccoon City police officer in a series of events that takes place 6 years after those of Resident Evil 2. A cult have kidnapped the president's daughter and taken her to a small town in Spain. From there, Leon finds out about the strange goings-on about the cult Los Illuminados and their plot for control and some more eeriness that you'd have to see to believe. For a game that's well over a decade old and slapped with higher definition detail, Resident Evil 4 holds up surprisingly well in the visuals department. Some may be astonished that a game nearly 12 years old still looks pretty fresh, but others may realize that 2005, when the game was released, was nearing the end of the GameCube generation, and graphics near the end of a generation are usually at their peak. Every blade of grass is as crisp and clear as any modern day game. You won't find any smudge or muddy moments throughout the entire experience. Even in the pause menu, it's nearly possible to see every detail on Leon's classic brown leather jacket. Of course, this game has improved definition and not an overhaul of graphics, aka remaster, so there will be those unfortunately sharp edges on items you expect to be smooth, or shapes in some places that are just out current standards. As expected, this game runs at 1080p and 60 FPS on both the PS4 and Xbox One, and although Capcom are not marketing the title as a remaster, the lack of a decent anti-aliasing solution is disappointing given the game's age. But on the other hand, this is definitely an improvement over the 720p resolution that we've had in the PS3 version, and even lower on the PS2 and GameCube. Back when games would have a graphical fade in effect, Resident Evil 4 suffers from none of that. As far as the eyes can see, there are highly detailed backdrops that are instantly visible without an ominous fog casting its ugly gaze over a beautiful landscape. Everywhere you look there will be something, and it's not fog, unless of course you're in a foggy location. Another aspect of the original game was its stellar voice cast that really made the characters jump out and be someone. Even back in 2005, voiceover casts were just beginning to become mainstream for most games. Again, Resident Evil 4's voice cast holds up spectacularly well. From the laid-back yet moody Leon Kennedy to the secretive and seductive Ada Wong, there isn't a beat missed from any single performance. The Resident Evil franchise has always been a fetch quest series. Run to this location, find Crank, run over there, put Crank in, and the next door opens. And Resident Evil 4 follows suit to a much lesser degree. There are plenty of quests to do something trivial just to get to the next location, but the game changes the experience by adding in an AI co-op partner later on in the game. For those familiar with the original release and still true in the HD version, is that the AI co-op partner actually does its job. Notice how unspecific I am about who this partner is? In-game situations will force Leon to protect his partner, while the partner does a task that allows the duo to move forward in the game. One of my fondest memories of the original release of Resident Evil 4 was its unique and often terrifying atmospheres. I'm not usually scared by horror games generally, but there's something about quietly scampering around a sewer system, knowing there are monsters waiting to pop out. As the series takes an unusual spin by placing the fourth game in Spain, there are some rather outlandish landscapes. Rural villages, condemned castles, humid lakes, and all-out spooky locales. From unsettled hues of browns and grays to pitch blacks and bloody reds, every moment holds up in many all-too-real moments throughout the entire experience. What hit me as an unusual and for the most part unfortunate was Capcom's lack of improvement on the overall controller layout. Aiming takes the tap of the left trigger while the right analog stick is used to position Leon and his gun, rifle, or knife. Controlling the movement after pulling the left trigger is eye-gougingly slow. Sure, Resident Evil is supposed to be a slow-paced horror game, but modernized games have proved that a game can be terrifying with speedy controls. On top of that, the camera was never updated and modernized itself. You get a left pan, right pan, and it always goes back to center over the shoulder perspective. It works, but it isn't comfortable. If Capcom would have unlocked the camera and allowed for a full 360-degree rotation, then this game would have been nearly modernized. When you complete the journey, there's some bonus content waiting for you. The Separate Ways campaign lets you play as Ada Wong, whose mission takes place in parallel with the events of Leon in the main story. The Mercenaries mode is pretty much Horde. Gear up and take out as many enemies to earn a high score. These additions, some of which were later included in the PlayStation 2 version, are a nice additive but do little to add much more to an already excellent game. For a game that's well over a decade old, Resident Evil 4 holds up extremely well. Its fantastic pacing, more than creepy locales, and abundance of terrific thrills allows this fourth game in the main series to hold the crown as the best game in the franchise. There are awkward and unnecessary moments in the story from time to time, and an unbalanced control system, but overall, this game is still one of the greatest games of all time. It's kind of a shame that the developers did not put in more effort to improve the visuals even more, other than the motion blur effect, which is honestly quite bad, but looking back, Capcom really hit their stride with this entry in the beloved series. We just wish they could do it again with the upcoming Resident Evil 7.
And that wraps it up. What are your thoughts about this? Let us know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, please like and share it on Twitter and Facebook. And why not consider subscribing? We upload some really cool videos almost every day. Thank you for watching this video, and happy gaming!